Hey everybody, Frank Zabski here, the Polish Pizziola, 23% Italian, member of the Pizza Gavons. We review the pizza, the place, and the personality. And remember, all our reviews are oven fresh pies, never anything out of a box. Hey everybody, today's video is going to be part 2 of our 2-part series on how to make New Haven style pizza, or a beats as we call it in New Haven. Everybody, the goal of this video is to allow anyone to make New Haven style beats at your home. From Connecticut to California, from Illinois to Texas, and everywhere in between, including Hawaii and Alaska, and really anywhere else. Also, everything in this video you can get at your local grocery store, online, or at a specialty Italian shop if you have one near you. Also, in the comments section, I have a section that I have an affiliate link for all the big stuff in these 2 videos, both the dough video and in here. I really would appreciate your support. It helps the channel and it helps me be able to buy different things and give you guys more content. And I really appreciate it. If you really like what we have here, we have an incredible group on Facebook called All About New Haven Style Beats. We've got about 7,500 members right now, and it's growing by the day. It's a really good place. There's a lot of people from all over the world, really, talking. All we do is talk about New Haven on Beats. So if you're interested, check us out on Facebook. If you guys really like this video, I'd really appreciate you hitting the thumbs up button. Also, if you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, it would be a huge help for us. We're really trying to grow our YouTube channel. Okay, everyone, now we're going to start getting going, and we're going to start talking about what you guys need to get in order to make this beats on the steel plate. I'm going to go over everything one at a time. I'm going to give you a little bit of instruction or any tips or anything as we go along. So here we go. First thing we have is a wooden peel. You always use a wooden peel to assemble your beats, and then you launch the wooden peel onto the steel plate. This peel is actually 18 inches by 18 inches. We're going to go over a little bit more of that later when I discuss with you how to measure for the steel plate in your oven, but this is an 18 by 18 inch wooden peel. Next thing we have is a steel peel, and this is to retrieve. Wood to launch, steel to retrieve. So when you launch the beats on the steel plate with the wooden peel, you let it sit for probably 30-45 seconds, maybe a minute, depending on how hot it is. And then you take this peel and you go underneath and you pick it up and you turn it around. You never want to turn a pizza with a wooden peel. And I'm not saying it hasn't been done before or can't be done, but again, steel is to retrieve. That's what you're going to need. Next thing is going to be a pizza screen. I use this sometimes specifically when I start baking, especially in my wood-fired oven, although I know we're not talking about a wood-fired oven. Sometimes the underskirt starts to get a little bit darker than you want to. So what this screen does is it takes the dough or the beats and puts it on top, and then it helps you so that you don't burn the bottom of your pizza. And there's a big difference between leoparding, which we're going to talk about, and burning. Very big difference. So this is something that is not critical, but I recommend having it just in case. Okay, those are really kind of more of the oven things, and now we're going to kind of get into some of the ingredients and things like that. Okay guys, the next thing is going to be the mozzarella. This is deli sliced boar's head mozzarella, about a medium cut. I like to use this because I think it's a lot easier to work with than the shredded. Also, if you buy the shredded and you don't shred it yourself, there's actually a film that they put on the cheese, and I just think it takes away from the beats. But if you went down to Pepe's on Worcester Street, they're going to use this exact format. Sally's actually uses whole milk mozzarella, but they basically take a block and they shred it fresh. Either one's fine. I like the deli slice boar's head. You can use whatever you want. Pecorino Romano. This is really the magic, I think. You can buy this online or you can get it at your local Italian store. But I usually buy a quarter wheel and I grind it myself. Doesn't really matter. You can do it, not do it, but you want Pecorino Romano and you want it as finely grated as you possibly can. Again, this really, I think, is, if there's a secret weapon, I think this is it. This is the dough. This is the dough we made the other day. Obviously, this is a proofing container. I went over that with the other video, but this is a 6-cup Gladware container, and you can see the dough in here, and we're going to bake this in a little while. Cooling rack. A lot of times people miss this step, but when you take that beets out of the oven, you really want to put it on a cooling rack. And really what it does is it allows the pizza to breathe so that it stays crunchy. Next thing, can opener. You're going to need this for the can of tomatoes that we're going to talk about. Always need an extra spoon. This is a dough scraper. Actually, this is a flour scraper. When you actually work on a surface with flour, this thing is incredible. It's a plastic, basically a plastic squeegee, but it allows cleanup, and it's highly recommended. A beets cutter. Doesn't matter what kind. Obviously, when you're done, you gotta cut up the beets. Semolina flour, that's what I use. I know people use just regular bench flour. They use cornmeal. I use semolina. Usually what I do is when I first start making the beets, I will put a coat of flour on it first, and then I'll put this on, but I won't really use the flour any other time. I just use that flour to kind of soak up any moisture that's in the wood. But again, this is semolina flour, and this is basically the ball bearings, so that when you launch your pizza, it goes off nice and easy and doesn't get stuck on the wooden peel. So that's what we got here. Olive oil, gotta have that. That goes on top of the beets when we're done assembling it. These are Italian Sclafani tomatoes. You can use whatever tomatoes you want. We can have a whole separate video just on tomatoes. There's probably 100 different tomatoes. There's Italian tomatoes, California tomatoes, South American tomatoes. But what you want to make sure is that you actually get whole tomatoes, because we're going to mill these, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. And there's a huge difference between buying pizza sauce or a tomato that's already been milled and had things added to it, as opposed to a fresh can of tomatoes. It's super important. DOP tomatoes are the best. They're very expensive. They're highly counterfeited, but you'll see maybe when you're shopping that you'll see a DOP label. Those traditionally are the more expensive, but better quality, better tasting tomatoes. And again, I can do a whole video on it, and maybe I will, but just know that you want to get whole Italian tomatoes or California is what I recommend. Sea salt, fine sea salt. We're going to add this to our tomato sauce. We're going to go over that. A little bit of oregano, not a lot. We're going to go over that. The next thing we have is, this is really nothing more than a cake holder, but I usually start my doughs in here, and then I go on the bench. There's two kinds of stretches. There's a bench stretch, and then there's a knuckle stretch. The bench stretch is much easier than the knuckle stretch, and there's good and bad to both. Mill for the tomatoes. Take the tomatoes out of this can, put them in this mill. It's called a food mill. This is a stainless steel one. There's 3 grates that come with these mills, and they range in very small, medium, and large. I like to use the large grate. And what it does is it just makes the tomatoes, when you mill them, it grinds them up into relatively nice small chunks, which is what I like. Cambro 6-quart container, mill, Cambro goes on top, tomatoes go in here, you get the picture. One of the last things, and this is, I'll call it a somewhat of a bonus, is that this is a traditional tray that you would see on Worcester Street in New Haven. Sally's Pepe's has them, probably Modern too, and a lot of other places. So this is kind of an old school thing that I really like, and I think it really separates, quote unquote, the men from the boys, or the girls from the ladies. And also, this piece of paper is a deli piece of paper. And again, this is a Worcester Street thing. You have your metal tray, which you can see has been used a lot with all those marks on it. And they take and they put a piece of white deli paper on before they put the beets on, and then they actually write the number of the table in the corner. And again, we're going to go over that. But you know, you don't really need this. If you have just a traditional round aluminum tray, that's fine too. But since I like to go as close as possible to the Worcester Street, this is what we're going to get. Okay, everyone, we're going to go over real quickly the steel plate. This steel plate is a steel plate by a company called Baking Steel. It's a 1/2 inch plate. It's 19 inches wide by 20 inches deep. The most important thing is that you get a steel plate that fits your oven. As stupid as that sounds, the worst thing you could do is not measure and get something that's too big or too small, and then you'll only be able to make a smaller beets. So I'm going to show you quickly how to measure your oven and order the right thing. If you guys like what we do, we really appreciate you supporting us. We do have an affiliate link for Baking Steel, and again, we'd really appreciate it. Before I show you how to measure it, I want to make sure you guys know that there's a 1/4 inch plate, a 3/8 inch plate, and a 1/2 inch plate. And those generally range in price and they vary widely. But I'm telling you that you want the 1/2 inch plate. Not that the other two won't work, but if you're going to do this, you might as well do it right. So I highly recommend the 1/2 inch plate. Whether you buy it from Baking Steel or not, doesn't matter. But 1/2 inch is the way to go. First thing you want to do is measure the width of your oven. Just like this. So I've got 23.5 wide, and I've got 19 inches deep. Obviously, every oven is going to be different. The width and the depth are the two biggest components to correctly measuring this and getting the right plate. 1/2 inch is the height of it, or 3/8 or 1/4. The other thing you want to remember is that there's different settings for your grate in your oven. And you can see that there's a setting that I have mine on. There's another one here, here, and here. So the closer you get to the broiler, which we're going to use, the more you're going to have to really watch this, because the broiler works really fast and you don't want to have a situation where you burn your beets. And there's a big difference between char, which is a brown or blacking of the edges, and a burnt crust or a burnt pizza. So this here I'm going to measure, and I've got 9 inches. From my plate to the broiler is 9 inches. Again, you're going to have to experiment with this a little bit in your oven because every oven is different. But that should give you a good idea on how to measure and get the correct plate for your oven. I want to go over with you how to make the sauce. And this is something that is really critical, and it's really important that you understand. The key to this sauce is to make it as fresh as you can. So right before you're going to bake these pies, I would definitely grind your tomatoes, put your salt, put your oregano in them, and then put them on your pizza. The big mistake that people make is they use already cooked sauce or pizza sauce. And that's a no-no. You definitely don't want to do that. Okay, everyone, we're ready to show you how to make the sauce. It's going to be real simple. Just keep in mind that I'm using a 28-ounce can of tomatoes. It doesn't really matter what they are, who they're from, but 28 ounces is the key. That's going to get you probably about 4 or 5 16 to 18 inch style New Haven beets from it. So we're going to start with a simple ingredient of fine sea salt. We're going to go with a teaspoon of that. And then we're going to go with a 1/4 teaspoon of oregano. You can add whatever you want to your own sauce, but traditionally the sauce down in New Haven style is basically salt and oregano. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our mill on top of our Cambro container. We're going to dump the tomatoes in. And as you can see, they're whole tomatoes. And we're going to just start grinding them up. And there you have it. Before I take the mill off, I always give it a shake to get all the meat from the tomatoes that accumulates on the bottom into the bottom of the Cambro. That's 28 ounces of tomato sauce ready to make a nice beets. Here's the ladle. This is a 8-ounce ladle. You can buy 6 or an 8 or a 10, but I usually try to use an 8-ounce ladle. And then what I do is I come in and I mix it all up nice and nice. And if you see this consistency in the tomatoes, that's what you want. That's really New Haven style right there. Okay everyone, now the fun part comes. We're going to start making this à beets. We got our wooden peel here, which is what we're going to assemble our pizza on. We're going to lightly dust it with some bench flour. Nothing too crazy, just a couple pinches. Make sure you work it in. The most important part are the edges right here, because that's inevitably where if the pizza is going to get stuck, it's going to get stuck on the edges. So you definitely want to make sure that you have some good coverage on that. And then I put the semolina flour. And again, a couple pinches. 2 tree, never hurt anyone. I always rub it in circularly. I don't think it really matters. Most people don't even rub it in. But I just want to make sure that I can get this pizza off the peel. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our dough in our container. And it's about room temperature. I've had this out for a couple hours. We're going to put it in this little flour bath. It'll come out. Just give it a little couple shakes. And it comes out right in our bath. Take it, fold it over, and then what I start doing immediately is I start spreading it out as much as I can. So now we've got this as far as we can go in our flour bath. We're going to put it on the bench. Just so you guys know, this is called a bench stretch. We're going to put some flour on the bench. We're going to take our dough. We're going to lay it on the bench. Now what we want to do is obviously we're trying to take this dough and make it bigger, or 18 inches. So the first thing what we want to do, and I'm going to kind of do this really slow so you guys get the technique, is you want to work these edges out, and then you go in the middle. Then you work the edges out, and you go in the middle. And then you turn it over and do the same thing. So all I'm really doing is coming here, I'm putting my fingers down, and I'm pressing out. Out, 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 out. You get the groove. And then I pat it in the middle. Then I come here again. Out, out, out. Then I pat it in the middle. Now I'm going to turn it over. Same exact thing. Get these edges, and I'm basically pressing this down. You can press it or pat it, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But the bottom line is, you're looking to get this dough and spread it out. And you just got to keep going around. Another thing that's super critical on New Haven style is that there's not a thick crust. A lot of pizzas I see have a huge crust, and New Haven style is not that. New Haven style is very thin. So you definitely want to make sure that you pat down these edges. And again, I'm doing this super slow motion, but I'm just trying to explain to you how this works. And you can see this dough is just basically taken off. And the reason why it's taken off is because we have that high hydration dough. If you had a 60, 62, 65 hydration dough, it would be very difficult to be doing this. So that's what we have. The way I take it and pick it up from the bench is I usually take the edges and I fold it over my hand like this. So take it, fold it over. You see this here? Very important. And you want to have your fingers down, not up. Take it, put it right on the peel. And what I generally do, because it will contract, is I take the edges and I work it around. Little rip there, no problem. So I take this and I work this around the peel because I want to get a full 18-inch pie. So you're going to notice that this is not round. Well, a little fact is that New Haven style of beets is not round. It's pretty much everything but round. And I'm not saying that you can't make it round, but if you went to Worcester Street, which is one of the most famous places in New Haven, where Sally's and Pepe's are, you're more than likely not going to get a round pizza. You're going to get an oval pizza or a football shaped pizza, but definitely not round. So here you have it. We did the bench stretch, we got it on the peel, and now we're going to sauce it. Take our ladle of sauce. This is an 8-ounce ladle. Put the sauce down. Use the bottom of this to move the sauce. And the general rule of thumb is you want an inch away from the edge. So you start in the middle, and you work it around, and you work it out. Again, start in the middle, work it around. You want to get an even distribution in a perfect world. And there you have it. That's the sauce. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to use our deli sliced mozzarella, which is this. What I do is I just put it right around the edges. Put a couple in the middle, and I always take one and I break it up for what I call the slots or the gaps, just the big ones, and that's what you have. That's your mozzarella. Next we have our olive oil, and this is just a squeeze container, and I cut the tip probably just maybe 1/4 of an inch off. Start in the middle, work your way around, and that's it. Again, this olive oil is, you can use less or more. It depends what you like or your family likes. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put some pecorino romano. Again, I told you that I buy a quarter wheel and I grind my own, but it doesn't matter as long as you have pecorino romano. And I generally am very generous with this. And I put this around the whole pie. Okay guys, this is what you have. This is our New Haven style of beets. This is a mozzarella. I showed you how to assemble it, sauce it, cheese, pecorino romano. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put it in our oven on the steel plate. Okay guys, next step is to launch this baby. We're going to put it on the steel plate. I always give it a little shake before it goes in so I know that's going to go in nice and nice. And as I say with this step, this is where we make love, right here. Nice and nice. Here we go. Take the peel, you put it all the way to the back of the oven, lift it up, about 45-degree angle, and you start quick shakes. And it's off the peel. And it's inside the oven, and we're ready to roll. Here we go. Okay everyone, this is going to be our first check. This beets has been on the steel plate probably for about a minute. So we're going to take our steel peel, and we're going to open it up and see what we got. So as you can see, it's baking nice and nice. You can hear it. Things are starting to bubble. Things are starting to get happy. So we're going to take our steel peel. We're going to get underneath it. And you see how it's nice and loose already. This is really good. This is exactly what we want. We're going to take this and take it and turn it about half a turn. And we're going to come back another couple of minutes and we're going to check this bad boy out. Okay guys, this is what it looks like after about 3 minutes. I'm going to take another turn with the steel peel. That was again another half turn. Okay everyone, we're at the 5-minute mark. What we're going to do now is we're going to put the broiler on. That's how we're going to have that brown top and a little bit of char. So the broiler is going to go on right around the 5-minute mark. Okay everyone, this is the beets under the broiler. Probably been in for about 7-8 minutes at this point, and we're going to turn it. You notice this thing's getting nice and charred. Nice undercarriage right there. See all the leoparding? It's beautiful. We're going to just keep letting that go. This is another thing I do is the finger test. This is all nice and crunchy. No soft edges. I go all the way around. Okay everyone, we've had it in probably total about 8-9 minutes maybe. Last 2-3 minutes on broiler. As you can see, this thing is sizzling and it smells incredibly well. This basically is the essence of a New Haven style of beets. This is a moots pie. We're going to take this out and we're going to put it on the cooling rack. And I highly recommend a cooling rack, probably for about 3 or 4 minutes to let it cool down. Here we go. That's a nice beets right there. And there it is, New Haven style beets on the cooling rack. Total about 8 minutes. Amazing what you guys can do at home. And we're going to put it on our tray that I told you that if you went to Worcester Street, you'd find this tray. These are trademark clear plastic plates, napkins, knives and forks. The real Italians, or the real people who love our beets, don't use the knives and forks, but I got to put it on there to make it authentic. New Haven style of beets does not get cut up into equal spheres. And I'm going to show you how we do it here. We always go down the middle, and then we just randomly cut here. Start at the crust, break through the crust, you can hear the crunch, and goes down. Crust goes down. This is one thing I know I'm going to get a little flack for, because in New Haven you do not cut a pizza in equal sizes. But this is what it is. Notice this pizza, it's all brown. It's got some char, some dark spots. It's not round. It's absolutely fantastic. So now we're going to have a little slice of our beets and it's going to be all good. Okay everyone, it's all done. All set. You guys can do this at home. I showed you every step you possibly need. We got a mozzarella beets here. Nice leopardining underneath. Nice surfboard piece. Manja. This is good. Please smash the thumbs up button. Subscribe. Give us some comments. And go to our Facebook group all about New Haven style of beets. Good luck.